Hello, everyone. So, since everyone else seems to be doing it on my feed, I decided I would jump on the bandwagon and give a real quickie review of Jordan Peele's new movie, Us, with my co star, Sophie Bolfies. And there she goes. She does not want to be on camera. Okay, cool. Cat hair all over my face. Anyway, yeah, so I went to see it this weekend. I went to see Us, and I had previously seen his movie Get Out, which I really enjoyed. So I was really looking forward to it because this was, from what I understood, it was more of a pure horror film, whereas Get Out was like, I mean, it was horror, but it was also social commentary, and it was like really on the nose social commentary. And I didn't necessarily mind that, but I really kind of liked the idea of being able to pull back and just see sort of just a horror film, like how he would do just a straight horror film that doesn't have as heavy-handed a social message. I mean, this still had social messages, but it was not nearly as heavy-handed. So anyway, I went to see it this weekend, and I'm just gonna give like a quickie kind of summary of what I liked and what I didn't really like or what I thought could have been improved. So spoilers abound. I'm not even gonna try to do a spoiler-free thing here because like it's a hard movie to talk about without spoilers. So I'm just gonna spoilers warning if you haven't seen it yet. If you want a real quick recommendation, I did enjoy it. I would recommend seeing it for yourself. Spoilers. Okay, so the good. The acting was phenomenal. I really thought the acting, the performances given by Lupita Nyong'o, who I adore, Winston Duke, who was also in Black Panther with Lupita. He played M'Baku. His performance was good. I mean, his character was a little bit goofy, and could have maybe benefited from being a little more serious when the time came, but I mean it was well performed. The kids, I don't know either of their names, but they're really good actors, and it's hard to find good kid actors. So kudos to the casting director because those were really solid performances from the children. So yeah, I thought the acting and the performance was really great. I think one thing that Jordan Peele is excellent at is getting his actors to really just bring something. Like his actors, I thought the performances in Get Out were also great. Like I really think he's very good actor director. Like he's very good at getting his actors to bring what he wants to the table and to really give a good performance. And I mean, some directors are really bad at that, and you get really awkward performances because the director's not very good at getting his actors or her actors to do what they need to do. So I think that he did a really good job with working with those actors. I also enjoyed a lot of the cinematography. There were a lot of cool shots. The music was really great. I mean, as a music person, like that's something I always focus in on. The music and the way it was used and the storytelling was really clever, really excellent. And the premise overall was really cool. It was a really cool idea. Which brings me into some of the problems I had. Most of the problems I had, it wasn't like it made it bad. It's just like it could have been better. This could have been written a little better. I think right now Jordan Peele is kind of in a sophomore stage where he's really good at coming up with ideas for movies, but sometimes the execution is a little clunky. Red Letter Media recently reviewed it and they went more in depth on that. But yeah, I think sometimes his execution is a little bit awkward, whereas his ideas, his initial what he's trying to do is great. His execution's a little awkward. I think as he continues to make movies, it's going to get better and better. Like Get Out, I thought was good overall. There are parts of it that were just a little bit weird, like the literal brain swapping. I think maybe if they had played with the hypnotism angle a little better and like made it so you hypnotize them into acting white or whatever instead of just straight up being like we take a portion of your brain and then it got a little bit too in depth. I think one of his weaknesses is that he tends to over explain, and I think that horror benefits from the less you know the better. Like I think he's mentioned before that one of his models or inspirations is Hitchcock. And Hitchcock, of course, is one of the greatest horror film creators of all time. And I think of one of his greatest movies that I love and still find genuinely creepy, The Birds. And what made that movie so excellent? I mean, it was made, 60 years ago? But what makes it so great even today is because it's never explained why the birds are going crazy. There are theories thrown about, but no one ever clearly explains. It's not like, because you know how Birdemic, the famously really bad birds ripoff that came out maybe 10 years ago or whatever, and they tried to make it about global warming and give a really specific reason for why the birds were going crazy. No, that ruins it. You don't want to give specific explanations. It's much better to be like, well, we don't really know why the birds are going crazy. One day we woke up and the birds went nuts. And that last scene where they're going out in the yard is covered in freaking birds, and birds are everywhere and birds are all over the bridge and you don't know why they're there or where they came from. There's just millions of birds just hanging out. Can you imagine what a freaky thing that would be. Like, the crux of creepy is when something is just not right. Like, it's normal if you walk out to your car to go to work and you see one bird or two birds in your yard. But if you walked out and saw like 500 birds, you'd be really freaked out because that's not normal. So that's why that movie works, because it's under-explained. And I feel like Peele sometimes feels like he needs to over-explain, because otherwise you're going to miss it. He loves to put a lot of meta-commentary and subtle clues and hints and Easter eggs into his movies, which is fine. A lot of horror directors like to do that. But sometimes it gets to the point where he's like, oh no, they're not going to get what I'm trying to say if I don't like really explain why this is a thing. And sometimes it gets too much. Like, if you over explain the brain swapping thing, it just becomes a little bit like the logistics of it become a little weird. And when it comes to this movie, so apparently the evil doubles, they have evil doppelgangers, that's in the trailer, but anyway, the evil doppelgangers live under the tunnels and the sewers under like the United States, and they come up sometimes. And no, they don't. They're down there because the U.S. like created them as an experiment to control the people above. But after a while, so they're called the tethered, because they're tethered to the people above. But after a while, the people above stopped needing them to control them, and so they were able to just do whatever. So the tethered felt like they were relegated to the bottom of the earth, and they were forgotten, and they weren't needed, and they went crazy. And then they decided to go up and kill their doubles so that they could live the life of it. It's weird, and it gets to a lot of logistical concerns of just like, why and how does any of that work? And it's like, it would have been so much better if it was just like, you have doubles living in the sewers, and leave it at that. Don't explain why, don't explain how, don't bring the American government into it, don't say there was like an experiment, blah bitty blah bitty blah, because the more you explain it, the more you open yourself up to plot holes and like to CinemaSins-y types like, how did you get the people, how did they get the scissors and the jumpsuits, and how, I mean, there's a lot of like nitpicky questions, and some of those are just you can overlook some of it, but I think when you over explain something, it gets to be a little bit like, what the heck is happening? Like, why is this the way that it is? And if this is this, then how is that? And how did they get food? And how did they get clothes? And what is like? And it's nothing. If there's nothing but an escalator leading to the tunnels, then why don't they just escape before? Why did it take them like 30 million years to escape? Like, what? None of it makes any sense. Like, the premise doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's cool because you get a lot of cool visuals and dynamics, so you can kind of forget that the premise is sort of whack, but you sort of get reminded that the premise doesn't make any sense every time they try to explain what the premise is. Like, oh, we lived under here and we ate raw rabbits in the government. Like, it makes less sense the more they talk about it. And the other problem was the twist. The twist was one of the most obvious. If you were told that there was a horror movie being made and it was about clones and the main character had to fight a clone of themselves, what would you think the twist would be? Oh, that the main character was actually a clone the whole time. Yeah, that's the twist. It's super obvious. And, like, I think it could have been made much better. Somebody said, well, what if the son was, like, a clone? Like, that could have been really interesting because the son character wears a mask a lot of the time, so you can't see his face, and his double wears a mask, too, but when he peels it off, you realize the bottom half of his face is, like, burnt off or whatever. So it might be cool if instead of Lupita's character, who's the main character, ended up being the clone, whatever, if there's a scene where the evil Lupita kidnaps her good Lupita's son and takes him down to the basement, and so then she has to go down underground and try to save him and kill her double. She kills her double, and then she rescues her son. Well, what if when she went to rescue her son, the son had the mask on, and so she assumed it was her son because he was wearing the same mask that he always does. It's a Wookiee mask. She takes him, puts him in the car, whatever, drives off, and then as the movie ends, the camera slowly pans to the son who peels off the mask, and his face is burnt, and it's like, oh snap, that was actually, ooh, she took the wrong kid. Oh, like, that would have been kind of interesting. A little better than what they ended up doing, where it's like, Lupita was the double the whole time. Like, well, duh. Like, that was, I mean, as the little kid, she wandered off into the fun house or whatever, and I immediately thought, oh, she's gonna replace the double, and that's just the most obvious twist. And Jordan, you're better than that. I really, truly believe you are better than that. I think you're a great filmmaker with some great ideas. You can come up with a better twist than that. I believe you. So, yeah. So all in all, there were some, I think it could have used like maybe 2 or 3 more rewrites, a couple more eyes looking into it, maybe a few more test screenings, and change the twist. But those are just things that could have made the movie better. But I wouldn't say it was bad. I thought it was enjoyable. I don't know if it's the best horror movie of all time. I didn't find myself truly terrified watching it. I felt it could have been a lot scarier, and it would have been a lot scarier if they had stopped explaining so much. But it was good, it was enjoyable, and I would recommend it. So that's a quick 10-minute review of Us. Check it.